Charles Taylor was quite hilarious as a Butler. I thought this was, in some ways, it almost stole the spotlight from the Leyla Hirsch Penelope Ford match because there were so many antics going on.
Right.
You had Charles, he cheated on the behalf of
Yeah.
Penelope. Certainly, you had a lot of moments where Kip Sabian was playing. I was just when I started to get a little like, man, Kip's got to go. As soon as I started thinking like that dude brought it out tonight. He was running his mouth off, yapping like a little puppy dog. The dude was definitely like, I felt like leaning into his greatest character traits, which is being like obnoxious, over the top, kind of like the heel that you want to punch in the face.
Yep.
I thought that whole story was played out very, very well, with the backdrop being Penelope Ford and Leyla Hirsch having a pretty intensely fought women's match. Jump in, SPD. What were your thoughts as far as the match itself and sort of the context in which what we saw going on? That was a real theme that we saw throughout most of these matches tonight, was that the match itself served as a base for a bigger story. We talk about Cody and that was more about the Jade moment. We talk about a little bit about earlier with Seidel and Top Flight. That really served as private parties cementing their heel turn. This was a big moment beyond that. Go ahead and jump in.
Yeah, it was a props to AEW for getting a nice audible match filled in here and really tell a more in-depth story. I mean, yes, we were going to hear from Miro and his Butler during this at some point, but they really did a nice job tying all one segment in together, with Nyla Rose going down. But the match itself, before we talk about everything, once again, man, picture-in-picture really sucks the air out of any momentum. The start of the match wasn't as strong as I was hoped for. It was kind of just slow. I mean, they talked about the announcers did a good job building it up, but anytime we see Penelope in the ring, she really does impress. And I think we've said it before that she should be one of the main core of the division, because she really she's stronger in the ring than Kip, in my opinion. She's more entertaining. She's more agile. She's got more, repertoire. But this, we've seen legit Leyla Hirsch in the past, and she has impressed, looking strong, for her size. She's really is a nice addition to the division. And when she went off the top rope, that really surprised me. I did not expect to see that for someone who's really a ground and pound type of person. Yes. So to see that was awesome. And then the Butler goes down commentary was pretty funny, but in true heel fashion. Yes, you had to have the Butler and Kip and kind of play this to really solidify these guys this group being like dirt balls. But yes. The post promo really did a great job. And Miro is, so good on the mic at being a bad guy and so hated. And it was, a good tie-in. The match itself, though, I'm going to give it a delete, but the overall segment, I would give it an elite, overall combined segment. So if I was just judging the match alone, I don't think it was a strong enough match, strong enough storytelling to give it an elite, in my opinion. But if you tie in the shenanigans with Kip and the Butler and then the post promo and all that, I think that was an elite segment. It didn't seem too cheesy. And then you show Orange Cassidy in the crowd. And so that kind of gives you more breadcrumbs to what's the future to hold. So segment elite, match elite.
Yeah, I can respect that take. I don't typically, we can give each other a hard time if we give a soft delete or whatever, but yeah. I can respect that take. I think that these were two very different commodities in that regard. I think, especially when you talk about, how they could have booked this, going into it, they really just talked about it was going to be an update from Miro and the Butler scenario. And instead of just having another backstage segment,
which I'm glad they didn't.
Yes, right. We got to see Miro out there. We got to see him in the flesh. We got to see, the shenanigans in the ring. I really liked how they played this. I felt like Miro's post-match promo, like you talked about, I mean, just him calling just Charles. He had me cracking up throughout his whole promo. I mean, he was really like leaning into making, not just Chuck Taylor's life miserable through this scenario, but dividing his friendships and making like pushing Orange Cassidy away and like just really rubbing the best friends. You think about what ever since the best friends have gotten involved with Miro and crossed him, Trent's on the shelf. Chuck Taylor is now Charles Taylor, the Butler. Orange Cassidy's all by himself. And so
It's
Miro
true.
really
You think of
comes
it like
out.
that.
Miro comes out looking. I know a lot of people have criticized what Miro, how they've been using Miro and all that stuff. Think about the impact he's had on one of the hottest overall commodities that AEW has.
It's a good
His
point.
impact alone, you think about Santana and Ortiz couldn't break the best friends. The Inner Circle couldn't do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But Miro alone has really caused this group to fall apart very quickly. So I think that gave Miro a lot of shine. Like I talked about, Kip Sabian, this is exactly how they need to use him. Just being like just a jerk, obnoxious twerp on the outside. The guy you want to see get punched in the face. He did a great job at that. And getting to, so I can say I agree. The overall segment, elite. The match itself, I was excited about it. But I agree. I will give the match itself a delete. I think now that you paved the path that this is an acceptable answer, SPD, I'm going to copy you. And I think that the match, here's my thing. Going into the match, I was really excited about it because I feel like Leyla Hirsch, legit Leyla, for her offense is very much my kind of wrestling. I like the suplexes. I like submission. I like that ground and pound.
Yep.
I like
FTR style.
Yeah, I like that. FTR style. I like that kind of when it feels real, when it feels like they're in it to win it. Like,
right.
I like Serena Deeb for that reason. I like Pac for that reason. Just the intensity, right?
Yep.
And I feel like Leyla brings that to a lot of her matches, but it didn't feel that way tonight. I just didn't. This was not a signature match for Leyla this evening.
I wanted more suplex city. I don't want to go into that, but she could go on like that rant. That's why it lost me kind of early, because just like the rolling around, yes, the groundwork is fine, but it didn't seem really polished in the sense of that we know her capability of.
I agree. It wasn't as definitive of a showing for Leyla as what we've seen. Quite honestly, I don't know how Penelope seemed to struggle with that kind of offense. I mean,
right.
Like for her, you and I, we've talked a lot about Penelope. And like you said, I feel like Penelope Ford has a certain star power about her that you just can't deny. She has that charisma.
Yeah.
And her offense tends to be the best when you see her best showings. It tends to be a little bit more high flying, a little bit more fast paced.
Great Hurricane Ranas she can do, and
one of my favorite Hurricane Ranas in wrestling.
It's very impressive.
It just her. I feel like this was a real clash of styles for Penelope, and it just didn't gel. These two didn't gel very well, and that's why I give the match itself a delete.